to Hyderabad House in Delhi, where the Prime Minister is speaking along with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Okay, those images coming in right now from the forecourt of the Hyderabad House, where the two leaders are meeting. Those images coming live from Delhi. Remember, yesterday the two leaders in fact started their day on a light note when they were at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, where they watched the first few minutes of the game, the fourth test match between India and Australia. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is on a 4-day visit to India. Those images of the two Prime Ministers coming in from Hyderabad House in Delhi, where the formal bilateral dialogue between the two countries and diplomats on both sides are to begin very, very shortly. Earlier, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese paid his tribute to the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, at Rajghat this morning. He was also briefly in Mumbai as well. The bilateral dialogue between India and Australia is to begin very shortly. Later today, the Foreign Secretary will be briefing about the big takeaways from that meeting between India and Australia, strong partners as far as the development agenda between the two nations is concerned. In fact, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has called India a top-tier security partner for Australia. So that is the importance and significance that Australia is according to its bilateral relationship with India. In fact, Anthony Albanese said that his visit of India reflects his government's commitment to place India at the heart of Australia's approach to both the Pacific and beyond. He in fact made those remarks after boarding India's first indigenous aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant, in Mumbai. My colleague Akshay Dongre is joining me over the phone line right now. Akshay, give us a sense of the significance of this visit. There have been some moments of watching cricket, then of course that visit to INS Vikrant. At Hyderabad House, of course, it comes down to the brass tacks.
Well, Paulimi, as far as India's strategic ties are concerned, Australia plays a very, very crucial role. It is a country which is located at a very strategic point in the Indo-Pacific region. It is a country that is also, like India, threatened by the rising Chinese hegemony in the region. There have been attempts by China to limit the freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, and that has been a concern for all the Quad nations. Both India and Australia are very close partners, be it strategic ties, business ties, or for that matter, cultural ties as well now. And that is what that is the sense we got from this visit of Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia. The two leaders also will be meeting on the sidelines of G20 Leaders Summit. They have met in the Quad Leaders Summit. So India and Australia are forging closer ties, and that has been a tension for China. China has been dismissing the relevance of Quad. However, India, US, Japan, as well as Australia, all these four countries have one shared goal that in the Indo-Pacific region, as far as trade is concerned, security of these nations are concerned, all these nations maintain close ties. From what we saw, on the INS Vikrant, India's first indigenous built aircraft carrier, there was a guard of honor that was accorded to Anthony Albanese, first foreign leader, first foreign head of the government to receive such an honor, and that has showed the significance of how when it comes to maritime affairs, when it comes to strategic affairs, both of these nations are very closely tied. They are strategically placed, both India and Australia, to counter the Chinese threat in the region, in the maritime sphere. And that is what we are seeing, be it the cultural ties through a cricket match, be it strategic ties, security ties through the visit of Anthony Albanese on INS Vikrant, him being also inside the LCA naval variant. That is also one of the key projects of the Indian security establishment. And now what we are seeing, Anthony Albanese meeting the Prime Minister, And after this, he will also be meeting. He will be calling upon the President of India. And Anthony Albanese is set to return tomorrow at about 8:30 a.m. in the morning. But as far as this visit is concerned, it has certainly closed very strong ties between these two nations that have already been very crucial for both of these countries as far as security concerns are there. What we are expecting now is also increased business by both Indian and Australian businesses, increased investment in these two countries, and increased employment opportunities as well. So be it business, culture or security, India and Australia are close allies, and they are now forging stronger ties, be it the Quad grouping or the G20, or for that matter bilateral ties as well. Follow me?
Right. And as far as that Quad grouping is concerned, since you referred to it, Akshay, that is definitely something that China has been watching very keenly.
Well, clearly, because Quad grouping is of these four countries that are rather facing a threat of China, increasing hurdles that China is creating in the Indo-Pacific region. As far as freedom of navigation is concerned, as far as trade is concerned, there are artificial islands that China is building in that area. China is also increasing its defense spending. It is strengthening its navy, and from what we have seen, be it border skirmishes, or when it comes to the freedom of navigation or freedom of patrolling in the Indo-Pacific region or Indian Ocean, China has been trying to dominate in that particular region, and it is extremely crucial area as far as trade is concerned for Australia. Australia is an island nation. It's surrounded by the Indian Ocean, Indo-Pacific, region, and that is the reason Australia would want better ties with nations that are sharing maritime borders with it, and that is the reason why Japan, US and India become extremely crucial for Australia's own security. So Quad grouping is extremely important for all of these four nations, and it is a direct counter to the Chinese hegemony in that region, growing Chinese hegemony in that region, and that is why China has, from the day one, trying to dismiss the relevance of Quad, how important it is, be it security or trade. It has been saying that Quad is a grouping that is meant to fail. We have seen these kind of dismissive statements coming in from China, and that is clearly showing frustration inside the Chinese establishment that has been trying to dominate the region by either investing in the countries, by giving debt to these nations, or be it threatening countries when it comes to repayment of these debts. The resurgence of Quad, and rather the growing relation between Quad nations is a direct counter to the growing Chinese threat in the region, and that is why it seems rattled whenever there is either Quad leader summit, or very recently on the sidelines of G20 foreign ministers meet, there was a Quad foreign ministers meet as well on the sidelines of Raisina dialogue. So we saw there as well China, and in fact for that matter Russia as well this time, they were dismissive of the relevance of Quad, and that clearly shows frustration inside the Chinese establishment.
Right. Also, very importantly, Akshay, because you covered the defense sector as well, the Australian Prime Minister, while he was on board INS Vikrant, also announced that Australia for the first time will be hosting exercise Malabar, and India also for the first time will participate in Australia's Talisman Sabre exercise. Could you explain the significance of that?
For me, for people to understand the relevance of these bilateral and trilateral exercises that both India and Australia they conduct, it becomes very crucial to find strategic allies who will take part in these bilateral exercises, because India and Australia, they share maritime borders. How their navies coordinate, how their navies cooperate, and they grow together, they learn together, it becomes extremely important, because in a scenario when we talk of a possibility of war with China, between China and Australia, Australia can look up to India, Japan and US to come to its aid. When it comes to the growing Chinese hegemony in the Indian Ocean region, it can look up to Australia for that matter, Japan for that matter, when it comes to coming to the aid in any possibility of a conflict. So these are certain challenges that India and Australia face, and that is why these kind of bilateral exercises, when they are conducted, it gives a glimpse into each other's working as far as the conducting of naval exercises are concerned, conducting of naval operations are concerned, and it's not just China we are talking about. We're also talking about in the Indo-Pacific region there has been threat of piracy. Both of these nations have cooperated in the past as well. They have been close strategic allies when it comes to anti-piracy operations. So in the Indo-Pacific region, in the Indian Ocean region, where China has been trying to grow its dominance, where there has been threat of piracy very, very constantly, the growing ties, growing security ties between India and Australia through these kind of bilateral naval exercises will give better understanding to each other, to both of these nations and their respective navies into the functioning of each other's modus operandi. So that is the relevance of these kind of exercises, be it Malabar or the other exercises that are conducted. It gives a better understanding to the Navy of India and to the Navy of Australia on how their allies they operate and they function when it comes to these kind of operations are concerned.